Good evening, everybody. This October 23rd meeting of the Albemarle County School Board is now in session. Do we have a motion?
We do, Chair Acuff. I move that the School Board of Albemarle County, Virginia go into a closed meeting as authorized by the Virginia Freedom of Information Act, Section 2-2, 3711A of the Code of Virginia, under subsection B for consultation with legal counsel employed or retained by the school board regarding specific legal matters requiring the provision of legal advice by such counsel. The purpose of this item is for School Division Council to discuss a new complaint against school administrators and to update the school board on the progress of contract negotiations with the Albemarle Education Association.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Page, seconded by Ms. Lee. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. We're in closed session. Why don't we go to the This meeting of the Albemarle County Board of Supervisors School Board is now in session. Do we have a motion coming out of closed session?
We do. I move that the board certify by recorded vote that to the best of each board member's knowledge, only public business matters lawfully exempted from the open meeting requirements of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act and identified in the motion authorized the closed meeting were heard, discussed, or considered in the closed meeting.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Page, seconded by Ms. Osborne. Ms. Thompson, can you please call the vote?
Dr. Berlin?
Yes.
Ms. Osborne?
Yes.
Ms. Pryor is absent. Ms. Spillman?
Yes.
Ms. Lee?
Yes.
Mr. Page?
Yes.
Chair Acuff?
Yes,
So moved.
motion passes. Next, those who can, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. We'll now have a moment of silence before we begin. Now I'd like to introduce a new member of the Cabinet, Dr. Grant. He is coming in as our new Chief Communications Officer. He brings in more than 2 decades of communications experience, most recently serving as a Director of Advocacy and External Affairs for the International City County Management Association in Washington, D.C. We are very glad to have him join the ACPS leadership team. Let's see, where are you? Oh, there he is. Thank you, thank you. Welcome aboard. Next on the agenda is approval of the agenda. Do we have a motion?
I move we approve tonight's agenda.
Second.
Motion made by Ms. Lee, seconded by Ms. Osborne. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Next, we have a spotlight on education. And I'd like to invite our student school board representative, Max Koffler, to make this introduction.
All right, thank you, Dr. Acuff. Good evening. October is National Principals Month, a time set aside to celebrate and thank the remarkable leaders who guide our schools every day. Principals do so much more than manage schedules and oversee operations. They create welcoming spaces where students feel safe, supported, and inspired to learn. They work alongside teachers and staff to make sure every decision centers on what's best for students. And they help build the kind of school communities where we can all grow and thrive. Tonight, we want to take a moment to recognize their dedication and the difference they make in the lives of students, staff, and families across Albemarle County Public Schools. To honor them, we'd like to share a short video featuring students and staff from across our division, expressing their appreciation and reflecting on the many ways principals impact their communities.
Before we start this, I did neglect to do our roll call, so I'll squeeze this in between. Why don't we start with Dr. McLaughlin?
Good evening, everyone. Pat McLaughlin, Assistant Superintendent.
Maximilian Koffler, Monticello High School School Board Representative.
Judy Lee, Rivanna District.
Allison Spillman, at-large representative.
Graham Page, Miller District.
Kate Acuff, Jack Jewett District.
Rebecca Berlin, Whitehall District.
Ellen Osborne, Scottsville District.
Rosalind Schmidt, Chief Operating Officer.
Matthew Hawes, Superintendent.
Josiah Black, School Division Counsel.
Christine Thompson, Clerk of the Board.
And Jason Grant, Chief Communication Officer.
Thank you. Now we can watch the film.
Principals are so important because there's so many things that go on in a school that people just have no idea about. Somehow they have to hold all of that together in their head and present a good face to the public, stay happy for their students, and support their teachers. And it's a really hard job, and we appreciate it all.
The biggest shout out to all of our ACPS principals for all of the blood, sweat, and tears, for all of the work behind the scenes, for all of the energy that you bring. Everything that you do is breathing life into our children, and we appreciate it all. Thank you.
Thank you for all the principals and what they do for us. Thank you for all you do.
I think what makes a good principal is someone that is able to lead with love in their heart and compassion, humor, and be able to have the courage to stand up for the least represented students in the student body.
We absolutely love our principal here in kindergarten. They do so much for us in our grade level. They come down and she reads stories. She makes them feel so included all the time. She reaches out to them on our morning announcements each morning, and they think it's so special.
She's really organized, which I like, so then we've got everything like planned out and ready to go. And then also she's really nice, like she gives people like compliments in the hallway, like her jacket looks very nice and stuff.
The reason why we came into this work, loving kids and wanting the best for kids, he's making sure that we live that out every single day, and that really matters to me.
Thank you for all the principals out there for just keeping the schools running, making sure we can go to school safely.
Thank you to all the principals of Albemarle County. Every time I see all the hard work that assistant principals and principals are going through and do for all the teachers, one, I'm thankful, and two, I realize I never want that job because it's a lot of work. We really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Principals are important to the school because they keep the students safe, but they also help foster a positive learning environment.
I've been with the county for 10 years and I've had the chance to work with some amazing principals. They are, they're kind, they're compassionate, they care about kids, and I'm really grateful for the leadership that all of our principals show.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. You are loved, you are needed, and we appreciate you.
I'd like to thank all of the students and the staff who shared their voices in this video, and thank each of our principals for the extraordinary leadership you provide every day. Your work shapes the culture of our schools, supports our teachers and staff, and ensures that every student has the opportunity to learn, grow, and succeed. On behalf of the Albemarle County School Board, it's my honor to recognize and thank you for your dedication and service. At this time, we would like to present each of you with a certificate of appreciation as a small token, very small token of our gratitude. Thank you.
Thanks, Dr. Acuff, and we'll start with Amy Morris, principal at Broadestwood Elementary School. Seth Kennard, principal, Mountain View Elementary. Joe McCauley, principal, Hollymead Elementary. Steve Saunders, principal, Greer Elementary. Mike Irani, principal, Agner Elementary.
Thank you, Mr. Saunders.
Wendy Eckerly, principal, Murray Elementary School.
Thank you, Mike.
Jennifer Underwood, principal, Ivy Elementary School. Jim Kiner, principal, Brownsville Elementary School. Maureen Jensen, principal, Stony Point Elementary. Ashby Johnson, principal, Journey Middle School. Emily Uosif, Principal of the Center for Learning and Growth. Paula Gately, Principal, Red Hill Elementary. And I think our last order of business for the day is a group picture. Deb Patrick, do you want them down in the front of the? Let's do that. Come on down.
We're going to be in the picture too? If they want us in the picture.
Seth, you're the tallest, go in front.
Yeah. I think we do that usually.
This is a board event.
Nice to meet you.
Sorority spot. There's a piece of furniture.
My eyes are closed.
All right. I have some awards for the board. Okay, so before we move on, I do have, first I just want to really thank all the board members. In particular, I really enjoyed spending Monday morning at Ivy Elementary School with Ms. Spillman. We had a great time. One of the things that we really enjoyed, or I know we both enjoyed with the visit, was Principal Underwood has a group of students that are leaders in the school, and they go as the Bluebird ambassadors. And we had a chance to meet with them, and two of the students greeted us when we got to the school to take us on a tour of the school. So they really took ownership of the event. Also, Judy and Allison, Ms. Lee, Ms. Spillman, get extra credit because they sat through quite a lengthy slide-driven presentation about budgeting for student needs on Tuesday. A lot of stamina to get through that one. That was offered through the VSBA. I want to say that I want to thank our child nutrition staff throughout the school system. I spent Wednesday several hours at Murray Elementary School with Ms. Peggy and Craig, getting lunch ready and washing pots and pans in the kitchen and trays and helping them to serve lunch. And you could see why the kids love our child nutrition staff and love having lunch at the schools. And it was quite a pleasure. I learned a lot from them. One of the things that I think I knew but I didn't realize is that they have frequent on-the-spot health inspections from the Department of Health. And when they come in, they just come in with a thermometer and start taking temperature of whatever that is going to be served. And so they have a high level of scrutiny in what in the work that they're doing, and a lot of regulations to follow. But Ms. Peggy at Murray in particular really personalizes and does a lot of home cooking for the students. And I know that cafeteria managers around the school system do take that part of their job very seriously. And today we had a couple of firsts. for the beginning of the school year. I had my first Staff of the Year meeting for breakfast this morning. It's all the classified staff of the year and the teachers of the year get together, and it's a great interaction and engagement with them to talk about hot topics and then have conversation. The hot topic today was artificial intelligence in Albemarle County Schools. We also did that at lunchtime with the student cabinet. That's something new this year, and Max is on the student cabinet. I thought we had a great meeting today. We had a presentation, and the students had an opportunity to provide a lot of personalized input to our technology staff around artificial intelligence. So I really appreciate you coming today, and I'm looking forward to meeting for lunch several times throughout the year. It was a good meeting. I also have special recognition for all of our board members from the Virginia School Board Association. So I'm going to read off each one and then give it to you. Are you up? Are you doing that? Is that your role today? All right. Usually, yeah. So Josh and I are a team on this. They are all awards of excellence, which shouldn't surprise you. And so the first one will be for Ellen Osborne for your commitment to effective school board governance through your participation in the Virginia School Board Association School Board Academy 2023 through 2025. And another award of excellence for Judy Lee for the same achievement. So we'll go ahead and pass that off to Ms. Lee. An award of distinction for Graham Page for the same achievement. An award of excellence for Catherine Acuff for VSBA School Board Academy 23 through 25. An award of recognition for Rebecca Berlin, VSBA School Board Academy 2023-2025. And award of recognition for Allison Spillman, VSBA School Board Academy 2023-25.
Chair Acuff, I'd like to piggyback on that. Attorney Black, if you'll do the honors, please. I have an award of achievement for Superintendent Haas for commitment to effective school board governance through participation in the VSBA Board Academy. If you give that to Dr. Haas, please.
Thanks, Josh. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you, Dr. Haas.
Thank you.
Mr. Black. Thank you, Ms. Thompson. And we need to keep doing the good work, I guess. Is there any, I know that Mr. Koffler it's his first time on the dais as a student school board member, and I know you have an introduction and something to read. Tell us.
Thank you, Dr. Acuff. So once again, my name is Maximilian Koffler. I'm Monticello High School's school board representative. So also, first of all, I apologize if my voice is a little croaky. We had an awesome volleyball game last night. So tonight I'll be sharing data from a survey with 95 student responses from all grade levels, along with additional feedback from students who personally approached me with their ideas and concerns. So first of all, I would like to talk about temperature imbalances within Monticello. Many students mentioned that certain areas of the school were uncomfortably cold while others were far too hot. This inconsistency can make it difficult to stay focused and comfortable throughout the school day. Secondly, I would love to highlight substance abuse. Many students express that almost every time they go into the bathroom, they don't necessarily feel unsafe, but uncomfortable again. And third would be the metal detectors. And 10% of students reported that they make it difficult to get to class on time and create an unpleasant start to the day. But I feel if we took this survey now, I don't think many students would talk about the metal detectors just because we have improved on them so much. And now, within Monticello, areas that are currently being improved by us are keeping the bathrooms stocked and clean. Some students said that they couldn't find toilet paper or just paper towels in general. Also, school spirit, we want to have more assemblies and clubs, as well as making sure the student body feels connected. And finally, our main highlight this year is going to be on communication. With help from the Student Senate, we identified this to be our main goal, and we want to make sure that students feel comfortable spreading their ideas, asking for mental health, just making it so available that they don't think twice about asking for it. And finally, I want to highlight Dr. Costa, actually, just because it's National Principals Month. She's been doing an amazing job, really. So thank you all so much. Go Stangs.
Thank you. And Max, can you make a copy of that available to Ms. Thompson to have put into the record?
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you. Is there any more school board or superintendent business?
I was just going to give a shout out to Ralph Bradley. On Tuesday, he and I sat on a panel at Western for gun violence prevention, and he was great talking about what we're doing to keep our schools safe, both from a mental health standpoint and from a safety standpoint. So I just appreciated him being up there with me. I thought he did a great job.
I was at that town hall as well, and I think both you and he did a great job.
Thank you.
Dr. Acuff, one more thing.
Okay.
Last week, I went to the African American Teaching Fellows celebration, and a teacher from Walton was honored, Deja Granger Pascal. She was honored along with a Charlottesville teacher, and it was just a great event to see the support network that they've built.
Outstanding. Any other school board or superintendent business? Then we move on to public comment, and Dr. Berlin will be managing that tonight.
Thank you. We welcome public input at our school board meetings. To sign up to speak during public comment period, you can do several things. Online, sign up is available from 9 a.m. on the Monday of the meeting week until 2 p.m. on the meeting day. By phone, by calling the school board clerk's office at 434-972-4055 to sign up until 2 p.m. on the meeting day, or in person. Sign up at the meeting is available from 6 p.m. until the public comment period for in-person meetings only. Please note that public comment is not received at special board meetings unless specified on the agenda. Each speaker will have 3 minutes to speak, but the chair, with the board consent, may reduce this to 2 minutes should there be more than 14 speakers. Tonight, we only have 3 speakers, so we will stay at 3 minutes. Speakers should state their name, address, or voting district, address comments to the entire school board, not to individual school board members, limit comments to school board governance or school division operations, provide written statements and supporting material to the clerk. The school board will use a timer to track each speaker's time. Once the time is up, speakers are asked to wrap up their comments. To maintain respect, please refrain from clapping or other audible forms of support. You may raise your hand instead. Debate with the school board is not allowed. And the projection system is for staff presentations only. And as I noted, we have 3 speakers today: Laura Harrison, Phil Reese, and Jean Locke. Please approach the dais. And just remember to bring the mic to your mouth so we can hear you clearly.
How's this? Yeah.
Perfect, thank you.
Laura Harrison, Rio District. I'm here at first to thank Allison Spillman for having the courage to speak the truth about the hate group Turning Point. Naming a hate group as a hate group is never controversial. What courage she has shown when the rest of you haven't even taken the time to condemn the vicious attacks on her or show her support in any way. While you all tiptoe around fascist feelings and fears of lawsuits, the safety of our LGBTQ and BIPOC students is being eroded. This is not about free speech or viewpoint discrimination. This is about enabling a group whose rhetoric is an unequivocal call to violence against anyone who is not white, cis, heterosexual, and Christian. And that sounds a lot like another hate group you might have heard of. It's called the KKK. Really same values there. So here's some direct quotes from the Turning Point founder, Charlie Kirk. Transgender people are an abomination to God. They should be taken care of like in the 50s and 60s. Trans is a mental delusion. Prowling blacks go around for fun to target white people. We've been warning about the rise of Islam on this show to great amount of backlash. We don't care. That's what we do here. And we said that Islam is not compatible with Western civilization. Buy weapons, buy ammo, If you go into a public place, bring a gun with you. End of quotes. This is what you are supporting your students to organize around. It's pretty disgusting. It's a vile hate group, and it's a call to violence. We also have a teacher who, by all accounts, is despised by her colleagues, but somehow luring students into a hate group with promises of pizza and gift cards, and she's being funneled all this money from Turning Point. If that doesn't show you that they are utilizing our school, right, as a breeding ground and a recruitment area for these people to become white supremacist Christian nationalists, I think you're kidding yourselves. One of you has courage and the rest of you have a choice to make. You will be sued by queer students. It's going to happen. So the question is not whether or not you will face a lawsuit, it's whether you'll face a lawsuit for having done the right thing or for having capitulated to fascists. We demand an end to all the hate group chapters in our schools, publicly condemn the campaign of threats and harassment on Allison Spillman, reject these white supremacist, Christian nationalist cult members' values, and follow your own policies on transgender students and anti-racism.
Phil Reese.
Good evening. My name is Phil Reese. I'm in the Rivanna district. I have 3 kids in Albemarle County Schools. First, I'd like to begin by thanking you all for the time and energy each of you devote to serving our community. I know it's not easy, but thank you. I also want to thank you for upholding free speech in our schools. The decision the school district made a few weeks ago to allow the Turning Point speaker was the right decision. In the last board meeting, one of you spoke on behalf of the board, stating that the board disagrees with the views of the Turning Point speaker. And that's fine. Disagreement is part of free speech. I have no issues with that. But you were quick to criticize an invited speaker for their opinions on gender, yet silent when a fellow board member, Ms. Spillman, compared that student-run club to the Ku Klux Klan. Not one member of this board spoke up to condemn that. Why the double standard? Why did you condemn the Turning Point speaker but not Ms. Spillman? Do you agree with Ms. Spillman's words? Because if you're not willing to condemn her words, you condone them. Imagine being 16 years old, part of a student-run club, and you see that a school board member compares you and your club to the KKK terrorist organization. That isn't leadership, it's bullying.
I need the speakers to make sure they are addressing the entire board and not calling out one individual speaker.
I am addressing the board. Thank you. It is bullying, and our own school policies say bullying has no place in the school system. I'm asking each of you tonight to publicly reject the comment that Ms. Spillman made. Show our students that the same rules apply to everyone, including board members. You ask students to stand up to bullies. I ask you, will you do the same? Thank you.
Jean Locke.
I'm Gene Locke from Crozet. I have grandkids at Western Albemarle. And I want to thank Dr. Haas for responding to my letter in which I objected to the decision to allow the Turning Point speaker to come, and for referring me to your equal access policy and the policy about teaching about controversial issues. But viewpoints or free speech are not abstract. They're not just opinions. They can, when they foster a hostile environment, do real harm to students. And so I don't see a policy that will help you decide when you've crossed a line and are allowing a speaker who will target some of your students. So where do you draw the line? Would you welcome a speaker who was a Holocaust denier and thereby create a hostile environment for your Jewish students? would you permit a speaker who touted the advantages of slavery and thereby create a hostile environment for black students, many of whom in this district are descendants of slaves? Would you allow a speaker to come and allege that Turning Point USA is part of a white Christian nationalist national organization with an agenda, a white supremacist agenda, to turn the U.S. into a fascist theocracy? Would you permit that point of view when it would clearly target and harm the students in Turning Point USA? And finally, you have invited or welcomed a speaker who invalidates the existence of transgender students. And I think probably that will help foster a hostile environment for those students. So, free speech or viewpoint diversity, whatever you want to call it, are in tension with safety of all of your students. I plead with you, urge you to take on a moral responsibility to put the safety of all of your students before simply the minimum of following the law. Thank you.
Thank you to all of our speakers for their comments tonight. Chair Acuff.
The next item on our agenda is approval of the consent agenda. Do I have a motion?
I move we approve the consent agenda.
A second.
Motion to approve the consent agenda made by Ms. Lee, seconded by Ms. Osborne. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Our work session is next. Almost all of the work session will be focused on capital and our capital needs and a report from our Long Range Planning Advisory Committee. But first, Ms. Kumazawa.
Good evening, School Board. My name is Maya Kumazawa, Director of Budget and Planning. And this evening, I'm going to present the Capital Improvement Plan recommendations along with the Long Range Planning Advisory Committee. I'll first start with an overview of the CIP program and also provide some information.
Excuse me, Ms. Thompson, is it possible to turn the volume up a little bit? Thank you.
I'll also go over ongoing programs that include our maintenance and replacement programs. Next, I will review some background information. That's the data and the information that drove a lot of the decision-making and prioritization. And then we will present the LRPAC recommendations. And then finally, there will be time for discussion of the presentation. This is a high-level look at what the CIP, or the Capital Improvement Plan development process, looks like. The first step is for the LRPAC, the Long Range Planning Advisory Committee, to present their recommendations. This happens on a biannual basis. It's a comprehensive recommendation. During the off years, or the years where we don't make a comprehensive recommendations, there can be updates to the CIP, but mostly to move the years forward and bringing in a fifth year or update costs. After the presentation, after the recommendations, the request goes to the school board. It is the school board's request at that point to approve or amend what was presented in preparation for a joint work session with the Board of Supervisors in December, when the request will be discussed. In February, the county executive will include the CIP, the proposed CIP, as part of the recommended budget in the county's budget document. And then in March, the Board of Supervisors will discuss the presented budget and make any changes and set tax rates. In April or May, the Board of Supervisors, as part of their budget process, they will appropriate the first year of the Capital Improvement Plan program, and they will adopt a 5-year plan. So the 5-year plan is adopted each year, but that can change during the budget process, and only the first year is appropriated as part of the budget. On July 1st, the fiscal year begins, and funding for the capital projects would commence as well. This is another look at the process in a little bit more detail with specific dates. Today's work session's purpose is to listen to the recommendations that are presented, to discuss those recommendations and propose any changes, and then prepare for the approval of your CIP request, which is at the next meeting on November 13th. This is a summary of the current adopted CIP, so from the current year, FY26 through FY30. We have projects totaling $81.9 million, and they include the Northern Feeder Pattern Elementary School, high school renovations, ACE Academy at Lambs Lane, and Mountain View Upper Elementary School. Separately, we also have ongoing programs that mostly comprise our maintenance replacement programs. We have project management services, school bus replacement, school maintenance and replacement, and school network infrastructure. These ongoing programs over 5 years total $107.7 million. I'll next go over the next 5-year request for the ongoing programs. So the first one is project management services. These are mostly costs of 5 FTEs that are employees of ACPS Building Services that provide CIP and project management services and a small amount of operating costs. This request is for the CIP to reimburse the ACPS budget to cover these costs that several years ago were part of the CIP and were transferred over to ACPS. The services remain the same. The costs have been updated for current staffing. It assumes a 3% salary increase and commensurate benefit cost increases, and then it also assumes an increase in the healthcare premium. The next ongoing program is school bus replacement. Now, this request is for $30 million over 5 years. This program funds the replacement of school buses and ancillary equipment for about 30 buses per year. And there is a significant increase in this request, largely driven by new EPA emissions guidelines that apply to buses manufactured that are starting to be manufactured in 2027. That's driving about 15% increase. And so with that, plus inflationary increases, the request is to increase the 5-year program by $6.2 million, but maintains the same level of services. The next ongoing program is school maintenance and replacement. This is our largest program at $78.4 million. There are no substantial changes in this project request. It simply takes out FY26 and adds on the 5th year of FY31. And then finally, our last ongoing program is our school network and AV infrastructure program. This program provides resources and technical support for the communication and data infrastructure throughout the division. There is a new request that's been added this year to replace and purchase AV infrastructure. This infrastructure would support the necessary construction for installation and supplies needed for large group meeting locations at our schools. The increased request is about $1.4 million. Some drivers of that increase include increase in data center battery backup cost, capacity, and battery life, an adjustment in the web filter system renewal cycle, and then, as I mentioned, the addition of AV infrastructure costs that were previously not included. In summary, these are the 4 ongoing programs you can see over 5 years and the 5-year total, and the total ongoing programs request is $119.4 million. Are there any questions about any of these?
I think we're good.
All right. Next, I'll jump into the background of the data and the information that was used to drive the decisions made around the recommendations, as well as the prioritization. We'll start first with a look at a population growth forecast for Albemarle County. The orange columns represent the population for every decade in the county, and then the forecasted growth, the source is Weldon Cooper, and they project that the county will grow over 30 years by 36%. Relative to that, Virginia is anticipated to grow by 20%. So this is here to show that Albemarle County is growing quicker than the rest of the state. These are the ACPS student enrollment projections. As you know, in recent years, we've been up and down, but overall, we are still increasing steadily. Over the next 10 years, this represents about an 8% growth rate, which is a little less than the population, but that has been the trend historically as well. Looking more closely at each of our school buildings, this is a chart that shows elementary and middle school enrollment. So the blue columns indicate the number of students that we have this year, and then the dots that are floating above it or in it, that's the capacity. So for example, Agner's dot, I flipped it. It's like Agner's overcapacity. Agner's dot is the number of students, and then their building capacity is the blue column. So they're kind of like buildings. So you can see that they're over their capacity. Mountain View's capacity number includes the planned new building that will open next year. So you can see that with the addition of Mountain View Upper, there'll be plenty of capacity for K-5 for Mountain View. Next is the high school building capacities. And again, as you can see, and we will discuss throughout this evening, that all three of our high schools are over their capacities. And over to the right, we do have Ace Academy at Seminole Place and Ace Academy at Lambs Lane. We are including the student enrollments within their base schools. And so you can see, since it's not exactly defined which students will attend the Ace Academies, the student counts are at 0 for Ace Academies, but you can see the additional capacity that those schools will provide. Albemarle's capacity does include the planned connector wing, which will add 115 seats. That is included in the blue column, and that's planned to open during the school year. Another way to look at the capacity versus enrollment of our schools is a list of our mobile classrooms that we currently have. You'll see that in the previous charts where schools were over capacity, they often have mobile classrooms as a short-term or temporary solution. And we will be talking about most of these schools as part of the project recommendations. And looking further into the long term, probably past the next 5-10 years, this is a summary of the Albemarle County residential development pipeline. So the map on the left is a map of the county divided by our high school boundaries. And you can see in the red outlines, those are the development projects that are currently underway. So you can see many of them are along 29 North in the pink boundary, which is Albemarle. We have many in Crozet, at Western, and a few down in the Monticello district as well. I'll point out the most significant number of developments. Those are happening at North Fork, at North Point, Hollymead, and Brook Hill. And all these developments are along the 29 North corridor, and we'll spend some time on that this evening. Looking at it in a bit more detail, these are some tables by school and how many unbuilt units there are, unbuilt units that are in the approved pipeline. So you can see for the county as a whole, there are 11,230 units that are unbuilt. This is as of April early this year, so it's just a few months old. Some notable elementary boundaries include Agner, Baker Butler, and Hollymead. At the middle school level, it's largely in Burley and Lakeside, and at the high school level, largely in Albemarle. And these are all units that have been approved or are by right. This next slide, these are units that are under review, so they're not approved yet, but it's important to consider that they may be upcoming. And so it's a lot of the same boundaries. Most notably for elementary schools, this would be Agner and Red Hill. And then at the middle school level, Burley and Walton, and then at the high level, Albemarle. So these are not approved yet, but we're keeping an eye on. And then finally, I wanted to bring your attention to our master plan studies. These are studies that we have conducted over the last several years. And all of the detail and information that are driving the recommendations are included in these master plan studies. So if you're curious and want to read more, I would encourage you to read them. There's a lot of information in them and not enough time to present them, although we have presented summary levels of these over the past several years. And there's also easy URLs for those who can't access the links. And then at the bottom are our facility assessments. So these are the conditions of each of our school buildings that are studied from a lot of, in terms of their aesthetics, their capacity, and their HVAC systems. All the systems that make up that building have been studied in detail. And we have all those assessments at these links as well. And you will see that the recommendations are also driven by a lot of these condition reports. I'll pause here again for any questions on the background.
Two quick questions. On slide 18, you said that pipeline. What is, like, do you know what the timeline is for those buildings?
It is probably, I would say, 15, 20 years is fairly average. We do look at each project, and community development gives us data on when they think they'll come online, but
Okay.
the real answer is it's unknown.
Yeah, but, okay.
But
Yeah, but it's, I mean, it's safe to say some of those units are coming on in 6 months.
Okay, so anywhere from 6 months to 15 years. And then, I mean, would you say the same for the, or under the review, or like, if we look at under review, are we talking things that could be 30 years out? I mean, I know it's a guesstimate, but it's, okay. 20-ish, up to 20, okay. And then the last question is I guess it's 3 questions, sorry. When was the last time we updated the elementary and middle school facilities? When did I just? The assessments, sorry, the assessment. When were those? I can't remember when those reports were done.
You're talking about the ones that are referenced in the previous slide?
On slide 20, just those, the two where we say red, yellow, green.
Yeah. Those are Lisa's, right? Yeah. So we first published the elementary school facilities condition assessment 2 years ago in 2023. We updated that assessment as well as introduced this new middle school facility condition assessment. So those are newly published as part of this report.
Right now, okay.
Yeah.
And so those would have anything we did, the summer projects, those would have been included, like?
That's correct,
Okay.
yes.
And
Thank you
just-
very much.
I should introduce
You should- I
myself,
was
I'm
just
sorry.
gonna say.
Yeah, I'm Matt Werman, Director of Building Services, sorry.
Thank
And I'm
you,
here to
Mr.
answer any
Werman.
questions.
Any other questions?
Jerry Cuff. Ms. Kumazawa, I know we all read with great interest the announcement a couple of weeks ago that global pharmaceutical giant AstraZeneca is going to build a massive factory in the county. It'll be its largest factory in the world. I have to believe that that's going to result in the influx of several thousand new residents of Albemarle County. And my question is, do these population projections and enrollment projections take into consideration this new development?
I don't see that they would, no.
Fasten your seatbelts.
Yeah, yeah.
You may not know this, but with Red Hill.
Graham, sorry.
With Red Hill, do you know where those housing units are going to be built?
That's
Are they
driven by
going to be in the urban
one
ring
development.
or close to
It's-
the school?
It's called Sieg, and it's at the intersection of 29 and 64, I believe, in that area. So it's right on the edge of their boundary.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's an interesting one. We've had some debate among staff, right? You could redistrict that and move it to your Mountain View capacity, but there's a lot of benefit to keeping them in Red Hill and but in order to do that, you would have to expand that facility. That project's not in this list, but that school would benefit from
Right,
higher
it's already our
enrollment,
smallest school, what, about 200
Yeah,
kids?
Yeah,
So it would
we're going to
benefit.
follow that development closely. We'll have to make some decisions on it.
Okay.
Any other questions for Ms. Kumazawa now? Okay.
So we'll be, excuse me, tag teaming this a little bit, and there's no convenient way to do this, so bear with us a little
Tag
bit.
teaming is fine, just introduce yourself.
Of course. My name is David Storm. I'm the Scottsville appointee to the Long Range Planning Advisory Committee. I was first appointed in 2018. I'll also mention that for 7 years I served on the Fifth and Avon CAC, so I can talk a little bit about development work, but not a ton. I also am currently the Scottsville appointee to the Economic Development Authority. I can talk a little bit about what AstraZeneca may be bringing, as long as it's stuff that's been out there. But really, I'm here to talk about our long-range planning proposals.
And I am Kate Barrett. I have served on the Long Range Planning Committee since 2017 as a superintendent appointee. I reside in the Rivanna District, and I am the current chair of the committee.
Today, we are bringing you a recommendation covering 21 different projects totaling $547 million in needs-based recommendations. This request is largely built upon previous comprehensive requests presented with a focus on school capacity issues at each of our 3 levels and building renovation needs. As mentioned previously, Albemarle County's population is expected to grow by 36% over a 30-year window, and there are currently 11,000 plus homes, residential housing units approved in the development pipeline. And additional capacity for students will continue to be a large need for the division. Our highest priority recommended projects include the construction of a new elementary school in the northern feeder pattern, land acquisition for any future projects that may arise, construction of a new high school. Our highest priority recommended projects for renovation include Stony Point Elementary School and Albemarle High School. For ease of discussion today, we've broken this into 5 categories. Our capacity projects, which are shown there, our renovation projects, the Lambs Lane Master Plan, school walk zones, and then our capital needs assessment.
So we're going to start off with our greatest long-term needs, which are capacity. So while you have read the ranked order in the presentation that you were provided earlier, in order to maximize efficiencies of scale and cost where possible, that is what you see when you look at the rankings themselves. We've chosen to group them together just so you can understand the different categories that we were discussing throughout the past school year. The proposed timing of capacity in those projects that you see are specifically in alignment with the projected growth that we're looking to in the county. So the committee itself had a lot of lengthy discussion this year around how to minimize costs and maximize the benefit of any capital improvement projects that we brought to you today. So we're going to start with one that's already on the docket. The northern feeder pattern in elementary school. This was the first comprehensive elementary school since Baker Butler, which opened in 2002. So it's been a minute since we've added a school to our district. As stated earlier, Baker Butler and Hollymead Elementary Schools are currently overcrowded. Student population is projected to continue to grow in those areas, and we're looking at the highest impact of more than 900 students. There is a 10-acre site for which the new elementary school was proffered as part of the rezoning of the North Point development on 29 North. And it's a fully graded site, which saves us a little bit of money, which is always nice. And the design of the school is scheduled to begin in financial year 27, with construction beginning the following year in 28, and the opening of the school beginning in school year 29-30.
Our second priority item is land acquisition for a future project. We see this need occurring not only in the next 5 years, but in the period beyond that. We know that Albemarle County continues to be a desired place to live, to work, to grow a business, to raise a family. And that's not going to change in the near future based on the actions that we're seeing. So our recommendation for land acquisition in the first year of the CIP reflects that need. And we also know that barring something that we don't really want to think about in terms of an economic collapse, land prices are only going to continue to rise. The comprehensive high school, which we are recommending, does not include the acquisition of land for high school in its costs. So that is one piece that we may want to have some land for. Phase 3 of the middle school study recommends construction of a new middle school to deal with capacity issues. We may need to acquire land to put a new middle school on. Elementary school construction, we continue to anticipate a need for following the construction of a school in the northern feeder pattern. We look to the western feeder pattern for need, and quite possibly elsewhere in the urban ring. We have on our list a preschool center, which would be a great opportunity for some consolidation, for some efficiencies of scale, to provide some desperately needed expansion of high-quality preschool opportunities in the community. The division needs administrative space. We don't talk about this very much, but they are scattered throughout different locations where they are leasing space. So from a standpoint of being able to consolidate those operations, that would be good. And then an operations center. When we talk about, building services, technology, child nutrition in the leased space. And lastly, the Lambs Lane Master Plan includes moving the vehicle maintenance facility, and we don't have a spot for that. All of these different uses would require land that the division does not currently have. So having money appropriated for the acquisition of land would help us in any number of ways as we move through this CIP and into the out years.
Okay, so comprehensive high school. This has always been a big topic around our table and for several years. And so we are here once again to recommend a comprehensive high school be considered by the school board. There are multiple alternatives for addressing this, which have including current and future capacity conflicts with all three comprehensive high schools. Those alternatives include a new high school center, additions to buildings on existing high school campuses, and a new comprehensive high school. But based on the school board guidance, the long-range planning committee recommends the construction of a new high school, and the reasons supporting this recommendation include adequate long-term capacity and the limiting size of the existing high schools that we have. Long-range planning also encourages the community to continue advocating to the Commonwealth to enact the ability for all localities to submit to local voters a referendum for the 1% sales tax that would be dedicated to the construction of all school projects. This comprehensive high school in our initial design is 1,400 to 1,600 students. It would be in the northern feeder pattern where we're seeing the majority of the growth. Design and construction on this timeline would be proposed in year 28 through 31, with a projected opening in school year 31-32. So you can see from this chart, there's a phased rollout of multiple projects in order to meet our capacity needs within the county. The connector wing, which opens at Albemarle this school year, will add 115 seats. ACE at Lambs Lane opens the next school year, and that will add 400 seats for the county. The design and construction for the new high school will take longer given the scale of the project, so we are projecting 4 years for that. And the timing is structured to align with the greatest capacity conflicts, which start in the fall of 2031. Currently, that would mean our third graders that are attending school now will be our ninth graders potentially in this new high school. So this is an example of a fit test that was done on the one existing site we could entertain, which was the site just west of 29 and north of Rivanna along Berkmar Drive. But this site is not without several challenges, including 2 streams that cross, as you can see in the white, to the right and almost to the middle. The stream to the right is an intermittent stream, and the one to the left is an active stream. The property has steep terrain. It would need a geotechnical study. We would need consulting around the streams in terms of whether we could mitigate that. Right now, the convenience center is currently slated to actually be developed on part of this property. The entire property itself is only 58.4 acres, and the red shading is the usable portions of this site given this fit test without streams being adjusted. And that constitutes about 30.4 acres of usable space, which is just below the VDOE recommendations for the size of school that we would have. This design on site assumes that the intermittent stream has been mitigated. That would also require the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers to intervene and approve the design. We could ask them to look at both streams being addressed. That's the risk. If we decide to go forward with this, if the board decides to go forward with this particular property, that's one of the potential sunk costs is the investment in a consulting project to see if that could even happen. This particular site would give us the same number of tennis courts as Albemarle and Monticello, the same number of practice fields as Albemarle and Western, but there's not enough space to actually construct additional roads on the high school, so there's a little bit of transportation design that we have to get creative with. And lastly, the site doesn't have adequate space for horizontal expansion. So if we are going to build a high school on this site, we have to go up. We're looking at 3 to 4 stories, which would require special circumstances from the county. And so there's a lot of paperwork that would be involved with this site. However, it is possible, assuming that several of these things can be mitigated.
One thing I didn't mention when I was introducing myself, I am the father of 3 Albemarle County Public School students. I have a 4th grader at Mountain View who is very excited about his new school for next year. I have a 6th grader who is at Burley and an 8th grader who is at the Community Lab School. So I did want to share that with you because this project I get to know a little bit about because I'm in that building on a fairly regular basis. This is a recommendation to add to and renovate Community Lab School to increase admissions from the current 240 students to about 400 students. A 2-story addition would include new classrooms, a dedicated media center, their current library are carts in the hallway, and a specials community with direct access to outdoor programs. There would be some heavy renovations to the existing facility to allow some gathering space in the common space that they don't really have. That is something the principal has been very active in requesting. There will also be moderate renovations to provide additional administrative, teacher, and academic support spaces, and some external recommendations for the parking. As you probably do know, this was built in 1959 as Rose Hill Elementary School, and a school designed for elementary school students having middle and high school students walking through the hallways. It's a little bit of a different fit for them.
Can I just ask one little question? I know that Community Lab School does not have a cafeteria, and they get their meals brought over from Burley. I was surprised not to see that on your design or your list of improvements.
There is a kitchen listed here, if I'm seeing it, right below the multipurpose room.
Yeah, I didn't see it, but.
I think that's right below the multipurpose room.
Okay.
Again, this is a proposed plan. It can certainly
Sure. I just
be addressed.
didn't know if
but-
you were just relying on Burley to keep bringing the lunches over or not.
You know, it's something that my 8th grader has talked about, the fact that they don't have that same capability.
Before I move on to Western, I want to add another point to Albemarle. There are several, but the expansion for the new high school with the convenience center currently located or planned to be on the site that we
Right.
reviewed. If the board decided to go forward, we need to move pretty fast.
Right. We have, in my conversations with the county, we've talked about the recycling center and moving the transportation center over there. I don't know what land costs are right now. We can talk about that later, but it's not ideal. Just the elevation, how much
Agreed.
dirt will have to be moved.
It's not the best location. It is a location that we have,
Right?
so.
The price was right when we got it.
Right. 100%. Okay, so Western Albemarle. As we said, Albemarle School, or Albemarle County in general, all of the high schools and their additions are pretty much a temporary fix. It's not going to be a long-term solution for the capacity that we're looking at as we come into the next 10, 20 years. The Western Albemarle addition proposal does address current capacity issues, and the high school is currently over capacity by 189 students, and it's anticipated to be over capacity by as many as 333 students over the next 10 years. So that is a significant jump. So while ACE Academy could provide some potential relief, as we all know, it's a jaunt from Western to the Lambs Lane campus, so it's not necessarily dependable for us to rely that we're going to move all of that capacity immediately over to the Lambs Lane ACES campus. There is currently one 8-classroom unit used by the students at Western Albemarle High School. And in 2023, we had a master plan study recommendation for an optional project for Western Albemarle. We're bringing this back for a topic of discussion. And the proposed recommendations for this optional project included a 2-story addition with 9,200 square feet, with a new administration wing on the ground floor and 4 new classrooms on the second floor. So portions of the existing second floor and the existing ground floor office space would be renovated to accommodate additional 4 to 6 classrooms. This would allow us to remove our trailers at Western. We would also provide a small group space and some additional common area for the students in the design. This project does assume that we do not need additional bathrooms in the design, so they were not included. So that would be an additional cost if we decide we want to add those.
Our last project in terms of addressing some capacity issues is the consideration of a preschool center in the urban ring. Most division elementary schools host these programs with participants living both in the respective elementary school district and neighboring districts, since the programs cannot be offered at all of the schools. Centralizing these services may provide a higher level of service, greater preschool capacities and cost efficiencies. Providing adequate capacity for K-5 instruction continues to be a challenge. Pulling the preschools out of the existing K-5 schools then opens those classrooms and gives us a little more flexibility that we can then time into whatever construction down the line of additional elementary schools that we might need. And so this is a way to address a handful of things, and with hopefully the ability to maybe expand preschool offerings in the county, which as we know, is just a continuing need for families of kids who are pre-kindergarten.
Do you have even a ballpark dollar amount that we could pencil lightly in?
We'll work on that before the
Pardon?
We'll work on that before the joint.
Okay,
board
thank
meeting.
you.
There's still some debate about size of it.
Right. It's my understanding that we have, 9 to 11 pre-K classrooms in the urban ring schools now that we could move. Okay.
There's the pre-K and then there's the early childhood special ed as well. So those
Oh,
could all
okay.
go potentially.
Okay, so now we're going to move on to renovation projects. So while we know the division consistently and adequately funds our ongoing maintenance, there are many buildings that are still due for comprehensive renovations that will more efficiently and holistically bring our aging buildings up to date. So some of these projects are for schools that have been passed over due to capacity. They are not threatened by capacity. They are either steady or losing capacity in their schools. However, they are some of the oldest schools in our division. The first is a personal passion project of mine because my kids all went to Stony Point. This is a sweet little school. If any of you have visited, you know. It's the oldest school we have. And it shows. So there's not a lot of natural light in some of the areas where we have natural light in other existing facilities. So a big part of the goal is to bring this up to par with those schools that have been renovated. The highest priority in this recommendation is selected based on the Comprehensive Facilities Conditions Assessment. So the assessment was developed, as we already discussed, by the county, and we've been looking at it for the last 2 years on the committee. It's been an invaluable guide to us in terms of deciding which school comes first in any of our recommendations and which schools are needing the most attention. Some of the significant improvements that you would see at Stony Point include bus and car lane changes. Right now, for those of us that live in that area, we can see car lines going around 20 in the morning and the afternoon when parents are coming for a drop-off, which is not exactly the safest, sharp hairpin turn that I would want a car full of children with. So expanding that and would mitigate some of that drive out or the hang out over into the 20 area. The plan also would remove the existing trailers and take those classrooms into an inside space, so we would encapsulate additional classrooms near there. We would utilize that space where the trailers exist for additional parking, which is also in need at the facility. This would also include an extension in the cafeteria with more light and more space, which they need both of. An addition to the library, which would include some light because there's one tiny little window in that room. And they're overstuffed with their books, so there's not a whole lot of space in that particular area. And then in addition, we would move the stage and add some additional storage, which would be potentially lost from the storage that's being used in one of those trailers right now.
The second elementary school improvement and addition we are recommending is to Murray Elementary. The highlights of doing this would be relocating student support spaces from corridors to dedicated spaces, which would allow those corridors then for student gathering. Adding abundant daylight, enlarging the library by relocating some resource spaces, creating some tutoring and collaboration spaces in each wing, building a 5 to 6 classroom addition with some support spaces, which would allow us to remove the trailer that has been at Murray. And then external site improvements are fairly comprehensive here, resurfacing courts, replacing and repairing equipment, installing a canopy for car riders, replacing, adding additional asphalt surfaces, and then upgrading the fields, which get continuous use year-round, and then creating an accessible path to the lower playground field. This is a pretty standard thing that you're going to be hearing as we talk about our elementary schools in terms of that haven't gotten the renovations that some of the other ones have recently, and just trying to bring them up to a more equitable standard across the county.
So this may sound a little bit like a repeat, but the next is Broadus Wood. So this is our second oldest school in the district. And this also includes some site improvements for bus lanes and parking and car lanes. It would also add a covered portico for those students that are dropped off, so they wouldn't have to walk in the rain in order to get into the school. It's a decent amount of sidewalk they have to cover in order to get into the school. This would also include renovation of the external athletic fields and track, which are in a little bit of a disrepair. They've been well loved. There's also an extensive walking path around the school, which has been covered in roots, I should say. So it's a little hard. It's very hard for anyone in a wheelchair or with limited mobility to access that site. So we'd like to add some asphalt around there so that we can add a much more accessible walkway around the school. Inside, we're looking at adding a makerspace in addition to a rear corridor or courtyard. Again, moving a stage and cordoning off the old stage to be a permanent classroom that it serves right now. New restrooms that would be ADA accessible, relocating the clinic for accessibility, and adding hardscapes to save on maintenance costs in the future, and reconfigure the administrative suite and staff lounge.
Toward the end of the 5-year window, we are recommending additions and improvements to Greer and Hollymead. Those really need to be studied at this point, but you can figure that they're going to be along the same lines as those that we are already have been making in terms of recommendations. You can see from some of the pictures, right, the use of the learning cottages, and you can see the use of the hallways for storage, neither of which is optimal at this point. We're also recommending a new second elevator at Mountain View. This will be Mountain View Primary. The current plan is to have the upstairs at Mountain View become the art and music area. Currently, they have fourth graders up there, so that's sort of just those groups up there, and they're only going up and down for their activities. But if you've got your essentials or your specials up there, you'll see a lot more traffic going up and down. The current elevator does not fit a standard EMS gurney at this point. So the fourth grade teachers, and as I mentioned, my fourth grader, his teacher mentioned, well, we got trained on using the slide again this fall, and it's a hard thing to hear when that's going to be the way they need to be able to move those people around.
Okay, so the high school improvements at Albemarle also include an elevator. Again, for the same reason. So all the schools that we have recommended an elevator addition to within their projects are related to access for contemporary gurneys to be utilized, and also to enable access for students with mobility issues to actually get to their classes on time. The locations can tend to be a bit of a challenge for some of those students, depending on where their classes are. The breezeway and hallway improvements, there's locker room improvements, collaboration areas will be added, sprinkler systems will be added where they didn't exist before, and we'll add some expansion and daylighting in the basement and the arts wing.
I did want to go back briefly to, we'll go this way, back. The recommendations and the improvements at Greer would also include some of the Lambs Lane improvements that are mentioned there in terms of the bus loop and the parking reconfiguration. So that would be included as part of the Greer improvements, not necessarily as part of the Lambs Lane when we get to that a little bit later. Coming back to Western Albemarle, improvements include full corridor improvements, commons improvements, windows upgrades, a small classroom addition in the athletic wing, a makerspace expansion, teacher space improvements, special education area improvements, windows upgrades, and then the conversion of 4 sets of communal restrooms to single-user restrooms, and again, an elevator addition here. You're hearing sort of the same thing at a lot of these that we're seeing in terms of some of the space needs that we've got.
Monticello, since it's the newest, does not have as many extensive addition or improvement recommendations, but we are recommending the conversion of 4 sets of communal restrooms into single-user restrooms to match the other schools, as well as an additional elevator for this facility for the same reasons.
Starting this year, the division operates the Intensive Support Center, Post-High, and the Center for Learning and Growth at the Trailhead Learning Community, formerly Ivy Creek. With that adoption of those centers, some renovations are needed, including parking, playground, furnitures and fixtures and equipment, post-high facility programming, renovations to provide life skills that are unique to that community. We've got here a picture of a potential parking reconfiguration. Nothing's really been spec'd out yet. This is just one potential option there.
And Walton Middle School is also on the list this year for FY '29 and '30. The project scope includes a renovation to improve the school so we can conduct redistricting studies as well that would go in hand with this. So as a result of the studies, the division may redistrict students to Walton to better fit and meet its current capacity of 501 students, which it is not at, as we all know. The renovations would also include improvements within the current footprint, so we are not adding square footage. We are staying within the bounds of the actual school. Based on the looming overcrowding issues that we're seeing at Henley and at Crozet and Journey at the Lambs Lane campus, a redistricting study would be recommended as part of the middle school adjustments that we might need to make in the county.
Our last school improvement project for this CIP is improvements to Burley Middle School with funding for design work in fiscal year 31 to renovate and improve to equitable standards. Construction funds would be in the capital needs assessment moving forward. But this, again, is just part of that comprehensive look and the middle school's plan that you've had a chance to look at in terms of a very comprehensive way to improve and address all the middle schools through the process.
Okay, so the remaining 3 categories we have put in one segment of the presentation. First is the Lambs Lane Master Plan. And the work that we are proposing is the Loop Road, as we know, would be proposed for financial year 27, and the Journey Loop in 31. So, years 1 through 5 include that design and construction of the main loop road from Lambs Lane to Hydraulic with the associated wayfinding signage, et cetera, and the construction of the new Greer bus loop, which we mentioned earlier, and parking configuration would also be a project that was a portion of the Lambs Lane master plan, but that is included in the Greer numbers. Design for Journey Middle School bus loop and parking configuration are also included in years 1 through 5. And then in years 6 through 10, we would construct the Journey Middle School bus loop and parking reconfiguration, the design of the Albemarle High School bus loop, and the parking lots. So you're seeing a lot of road construction in this phase, as well as potential movement in the design of the transportation facility. Construction of the transportation vehicle maintenance facility, construction of the north section of the main loop road, and construction of the new Albemarle High School athletic fields.
We are also seeking money over each of the 5 years in the CIP for school walk zone improvements and expansion. These were started in 2021 by the division in response to the national bus driver shortage. However, there could be some unusual safety hazards involved, railroad crossings, lack of a safe crosswalk infrastructure, topography, road curvature, things that make it dangerous for pedestrians and difficult for drivers to have them to see. There are currently 12 schools with approved walk zones, and this would allow us to expand the number, not necessarily the distance involved in terms of how far the students would have to walk, as that's based on the age of the students and the age of the schools. This graphic just shows a proposed one for Woodbrook Elementary. The solid line is an existing trail, and the dotted green lines would show the connection in to the neighborhood. However, there is a stream crossing that creates a barrier, and so we would have to do a little extra work there to be able to do that.
Okay, which leads us to our final category, which is capital needs assessment, which would be in years 6 through 10, and that would include the administrative spaces that we mentioned earlier, operations facilities, the potential for an urban ring elementary school, which, based on projections, we'll need to start planning for, and the continuation of existing CIP projects such as the middle school master plan study, the elementary school improvements and additions, the Lambs Lane master plan, and the school walk zones. And if anyone, we're open for questions.
Why don't we do it by section? Folks with capacity questions, we can ask those, and we'll just go section by section, if that works for you all.
Sure.
Ms. Lee, do you have?
I don't have any right at the moment.
Okay. Did you look at any other sites for the high school? Well, one thing, I was surprised how high up it popped up, with North Point has already been approved, so that's, yes, it's number one, but it's not really number one.
Yeah.
So I was surprised. Well, I don't even know what to say.
I think, well, just to give you a little idea of why we ranked it more highly is because of the length of the project. So it's urgent that we do start it sooner rather than later in order to meet capacity needs.
I guess in thinking about it, what I would hope is that with 4 high schools in the 1,500 student capacity, and also, of course, expanding community lab school, we would be looking at solving the capacity issue for our high schools for a generation plus. Is that?
That is the hope.
Well, that is the hope. But I mean, that's the way I would think about it. I know, Ms.
You were talking on the comprehensive high school location, and you were talking about consulting cost. Do you have an idea of what, you were saying it was a sunk cost, obviously, because we could lose it. Do you have an idea of what that cost would be?
The initial sunk cost, if just for the consulting fee, would be around $120,000.
Okay.
Right?
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, my question, I guess, is sort of hypothetical, but if the subdivision that's shown on that first chart is built and Red Hill would be accepting those students, I don't see anything on here, so I guess that idea wasn't thought about or discussed at all, right? Because it's not anything on the recommendations involving Red Hill.
No, it wasn't. This proposal first was proposed, I think, back in 2020 or 2021. The developers went away, did some more planning, some more thought with it. They brought it back to the Planning Commission recently, and they requested another deferral at this point. So they're a long way from anything, so they would have a rezoning first. And then they would have to look at when they would do the construction. Much like with what we see at Southwood, a development of that size wouldn't be overnight. You're seeing at Southwood the phasing of their neighborhoods. I think they're up to neighborhood 3. They just did their neighborhood 2 dedication a few weeks ago. So it's not firm enough as a proposal yet. Because they are in the pipeline, right? That's one of those pipeline projects and not a by right project at this point. So they couldn't build that number of homes in that location without, and probably a couple of years at least lead time, in which case then we can start to figure out for the 27 recommendations that we would probably have to do something and look at Red Hill at that point.
I mean, one of the challenges we always have as a school board is making recommendations and knowing that capacity trumps everything else, which is why Stony Point School hasn't been touched enough, and we never get to those investments in our core facilities, which I think is really too bad. I do hope we could get this 1 cent sales tax, and that is not set aside, that doesn't offset current spending levels, which are also inadequate. I mean, the challenge is, making this case and with a comprehensive high school, and I have not always been a fan of it, but with a comprehensive high school, we eliminate half of the trailers that we have. We eliminate 32 classrooms in trailers across the country. When we first bought the first 8-classroom learning cottage at Albemarle in 2016, we rented it because it didn't occur to us that we wouldn't be further along in planning for high school capacity than we are now. And then we bought another 8. And then we had them for both Monticello, 8 units there and 8 units out at Western Albemarle. I mean, we really need to be, I think, as a board, bold in our needs-based funding request. And we fell behind, I know I'm editorializing, but we fell behind, even before I was on the school board, with the Great Recession, and there were years where nothing was done except making sure the roofs didn't leak and the HVACs worked. And then we were just getting going, and with the approval of the centers, and COVID hit. And so I'm disappointed that the center model, which was an acknowledgement of the fiscal challenges to get anything funded in this county, it was delayed by 5 years and cut 30% in size. So we need to decide what we're going to do next, and I think we have to really let the community know that we need more space and we need to upgrade our current facilities. Because we've been talking about trailers at these schools for how many years? I mean, years and years and years. And we need to make our schools accessible to our students and our faculty. Anyway, no more.
Maybe adding in about the center model, when we first talked about that, it was always with the understanding that there'd be renovations at the high schools.
And
too.
additions.
Right,
Yeah.
additions and renovations at the high school. So that just completely fell by the wayside. So we really got behind with that.
We recognize that, and you notice that we do continue to recommend additions at the high schools, knowing that that's an option, right? We don't know where the board wants to go, and that's your decision. So we wanted to give you as much information as we could. We, in our discussions, would frequently see the additions of at the high schools of 4 classrooms, 8 classrooms, as a Band-Aid, right? It's not it addresses the current needs.
It's better than more trailers, but.
But it doesn't get us, as you said, the potential for a generation at the high school level. And we certainly have other challenges at the other levels, but this is, we understand this is a big swing. But this might be the time for big swings.
Is that why you put Western Addition so far at the bottom then?
I think so, because it was only a stopgap. I can speak for why I did it, and that was sort of where it was. It was we can give them this. They've had their trailers for 4 years, but we look at Albemarle, and they've had their trailers for 9 years. And the Western Addition would be great. It would take care of their trailers, but it's short term. It doesn't address the overall needs for the entire county. And it's important to get those done. But if we invest upfront, and we've put that in fiscal year 27, but if we get $12 million there, we can't just say, Board of Supervisors, we need $72 million in fiscal year '29.
Yeah.
We need to ask them, let's start putting that money aside
Right.
bit by bit so we can get there and we can break ground when we need to break ground.
Yeah, and I think what we were talking about in our prior meeting was doing both, was doing the Western Addition, because that does solve the problem now, and there is continued growth in Crozet, and the comprehensive high school at the same time.
Yeah, you're right. The addition at Western would solve your immediate problem. By the time we get to 30, or to 31, you have a problem all over again at Western, and you have a bigger problem in the other two high schools.
Right, exactly.
I appreciate you including such a high-level land acquisition, because I agree. I mean, this is like, we are quickly, particularly because of lots of people buying large swaths of our land, there's not a lot left, and it's just going to get worse. I guess one of my questions, and I guess I've never, and maybe this is for another work session, like I've never really understood the proffer process. And so one of the things that I think about is, if there are 11,000 units coming and then that are been approved and another 4,000, like, who's doing the negotiation around, and I know this is
They're not legally
us.
required to proffer
Right.
land, so
Right.
that's part of it.
They're not, I guess the question is, they're not legally required, I hear you.
Right.
However, can we become more, and again, it's
More
not us.
stringent, yeah.
Can the county, I'm going to talk in general terms, how do we as a board
Convey that?
convey the fact that as we are agreeing to all of these things as a county, there is like the need for this land, because we will not be able to provide these families and constituents the services they need because we're in a way land poor. So I don't know if that's where we do. I'm just gonna put a little pin in there, and maybe for future conversations. But if not, I mean, I think we need the cash. It's like either or. Like that's a piece we need. Because unless we, can get the county to approve 10-story buildings for schools and multiple elevators, like we need land for schools, like in the end. And we need to protect it sooner
Well,
rather
if we're
than
going to do a
later.
traditional high school, we have playing fields, and all,
Right,
that takes
yeah,
up
right,
most of
right,
the
yeah,
acreage. I
right,
mean, we
yeah.
could build a school on 10 acres, but we can't build a traditional high
What they
school
need.
unless you have 50 to 60.
Yeah, a comprehensive high school requires a minimum, or the BDOE recommends a minimum of 36 acres.
Right.
So
Could I
what-
actually, oh, sorry.
That was actually helpful. So a minimum of 36, for middle school and elementary school approximately, do you feel? Do you know, is there any chance? You can follow up.
It
I'm
is
just curious.
smaller. It's
Less than that.
significantly smaller.
Yeah, it's less than that, okay.
I do remember reading it, but I don't remember what it was.
Okay, thanks.
We'll follow
Could
up
I
with
jump
that.
on that land acquisition question also and ask about the figure? Is that supposed to cover all these things listed beneath it, or is like 2 or 3?
As much as we can get with $7.5 million.
In the next
Okay.
5 years. So
Okay.
it's a 5-year, basically we're looking at what can we do in the next 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
So I would, honestly, if we are looking at needing to build all these facilities, you're going to see a recommendation
Right.
again for more land acquisition funding.
Okay.
Land acquisition in the urban area, in the development areas of Albemarle County is probably going to be more expensive. Land acquisition now especially toward the north, with the addition not only of AstraZeneca coming, but a lot of the work that's going on over in North Fork in terms
Right.
of the Commonwealth Bioaccelerator, bringing in a lot of early stage biotech businesses. The demand for the land is going to be there. There are a lot of competing interests. There are people trying to develop wet lab space, sort of that next step in the urban area in terms of what's zoned appropriately. So that gets a little tricky. Obviously, in the rural areas, land might be a little less expensive, but it'll have its own challenges in terms of water and sewer versus septic versus whatever that looks like. So I don't know, what we can get for $7.5 million, I've got faith in the staff being able to negotiate well and get
It
us what they
seems a little
can.
low. It seems a little
Yeah.
low to me. I mean, yeah.
You can certainly, I'd have no problem with asking for more, but when you get to 574 million, you're like, okay, I think we're here in terms of an overall number.
I mean, I've come around to supporting, I think, the comprehensive high school. It seems to me with the Mountain View Elementary, upper elementary school being built, with North Point being our next school being built, we've added 1,200, 1,400 seats, I can't do the math, a bunch of seats in our elementary level. And then with a new high school, we'll be adding, another, 1,000, 1,500 seats with some adjustments at Community Lab School, maybe 100 seats. So then we'll have to, years down the road, we'll have to really look at middle schools. But I mean, with these two projects, we could solve the capacity issues. Long-term for the high schools, we're still going to have to deal with elementary schools again, but we will have made a big bite out of what we need. And then we have, this is as difficult as this cell will be for my view of the BOS. I mean, they never get around to appreciating the need for renovations, and I think we need to have a joint boards meeting at Stony Point.
Yeah.
That'd be a great location.
And actually, that's a good point, Dr. Akoff, is that part of this is like, this isn't a one-time ask, this is what it needs to look from now on, right? Like, it should have been, but like, I think that's it, is like, this isn't a one-time, 5-year thing. Like, if you are going to, there's a turn in how we're marketing this, right? If you are going to be the county that you want to be, right? If you want to be the county that you want to be to get AstraZeneca here, and to win that against everyone else, you then now need to show that you are going to create the pipeline of future workers and families who are able to go to work and have their kids safe in schools and motivated in schools. And this is not just a one-time thing. This is what this county is going to need forever and again, because that's what you have now, that's where we are taking this county, and this isn't a one-time thing. This is every year, and Ms. Spillman and I spoke to someone who had done some work a lot of work in Fairfax, and in Fairfax, that's just what it is. It's like, this is what it is every year. Like, it's not a one-time thing. Like, this is just how we have to operate from now on out. Like,
how we have to operate, that this is not just a schools issue.
Right, it's a community
This is a community's economic development issue. And if we are going to continue to attract $4.5 billion AstraZenecas or that kind of industry, then we need to have, the community needs to show its commitment to good public education. And the way you do that, at least the visible way you do it, one of the ways you do it is by having school environments that promote student learning. And you can't do that in dark trailers and, old 80-year-old school buildings and, having to schedule a series of lunch times for, say, Albemarle High School because they don't have a big enough cafeteria.
And
Anyway.
it shouldn't come at the expense of our learning and things like that. We shouldn't be taking one thing to
No.
get another thing. It
No.
needs to be both and.
Exactly. You're absolutely right.
I will mention briefly, since Dr. Akoff said the magic words of economic development, as we were putting together.
That's right. That's your other hat.
One of a few.
One of several.
One of the things that came up in our meetings with the business community, the agricultural community in Albemarle County, as we were putting together the Economic Development Strategic Plan, which was approved recently by the Board of Supervisors. The schools and the education came up regularly, and Supervisor Lepisto Curley, who is our liaison, has heard this, and I have told her many times that I will be coming to her and reminding her that a lot of what drives the investment in Albemarle County, and we talked about AstraZeneca a lot already, but we also had a $200 million investment in a company that was already here in Afton Scientific in Albemarle County. And while the 600 jobs that AstraZeneca is talking about, which are very, six-figure jobs, but they are professionals with doctorates and master's degrees. Many of Afton Scientific's jobs are done by people who can come out of high school. And if we can be in a place where the schools can help prepare our current residents for those jobs, that's helping our community now, and it's not necessarily bringing in other people and other families with other kids. These are people who come through our schools. They want to stay in our community. These are jobs that, as Emily Kilroy talks about, are career ladder jobs that don't necessarily require a bachelor's or a master's degree. You can get them coming right out of high school or working through PVCC in their program. So bringing these types of jobs to Albemarle County, AstraZeneca talks about the educational opportunities here from post-secondary all the way down through the elementary schools. So economic development, school, the quality of our schools is part of economic development.
And you have to think about the employees at AstraZeneca. If they tour Stony Point, how are they going to feel about moving here with their families for this great job, but then they look at this 80-year-old school? It doesn't fit.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think that's a great point, Ms. Osborne, and I'm already starting to have conversations with families about that who are coming down. And again, we have amazing schools and amazing teachers. However, people deserve teachers, office staff, students, families deserve schools. And as we are seeing movement from Northern Virginia as well as, other places in the country, that's what people expect. And there's a big surprise to them. I mean, it's true. So sorry, we're all on our high horse. We need to get off. So we're practicing for
We're all
our
passionate
pitch
about
because
that.
I believe we need to pitch all $574 million. I don't, there is nothing, just like when we talk about our budget, right, for learning, we've cut, at this point, we can't cut anymore. We've delayed service on our schools, for our school buildings for so long. There's nothing on here that I feel like we could take off. I mean, it's just every child in this county and every teacher in this county deserves, what Crozet Elementary looks like. Like, that's just what it is. Like,
I had one last thing I wanted to say, and that was to give thanks to Ms. Kumazawa, Mr. Wortman, everybody on the staff, Sheila Hoopman, Lisa Walker, in particular. Those are the ones that we work with most often. And then the rest of our committee who couldn't be here today. They've put in a lot of hard work over the last 9-10 months since the year started to pull this together for you. And I think you can see the amount of work and thought that went into this. And I think we're very proud of what we've done. We know it's a big ask. We know it's a heavy lift. But we also wanted you to know the truth and know what we think is out there and what we need as a community.
Dr. Acuff, you asked us to think big a few years ago, so we are thinking big.
Well, Mr. Storm beat me to the punch. I was going to say I so admire and respect the work that the Long Range Planning Advisory Committee has done year after year. You all do it out of your volunteering. I don't think you're doing this for the high paychecks, but it's certainly a huge benefit to our community. I know we have many great staff working with you, but it's sort of the gold standard on what we need to be thinking about. That's the way I view it, your reports, sort of the gold standard of what we need to be thinking about as a school board in terms of capital, and it is our ammunition, our argument, let's just say, when we make the pitch to the Board of Supervisors. And I do think as a board, we need to think hard what the statutory obligation we have to submit a needs-based budget. And that's what we do. We sometimes become too timid and start cutting before we get there. And this is what it takes to have a first-class educational infrastructure to help. I mean, we need to get our teachers light in the classrooms and not have, having parent-teacher meetings in the hallways and stuff like that. We need to do that. And we need to start advocating that.
Just a note that for later, I appreciate what you said, I mean, about the elevators. As a teacher of children with delays and disabilities, for part of my career, children who were in wheelchairs or had family members in wheelchairs, I'm very scared about the fact that we might not be able to evacuate them in emergency. So any details that you or the staff can give us when we go, because unfortunately it has been something that the Board of Supervisors has not supported in the past. And so about the evacuation of the new gurneys, any details that we can use, that you could, written details that you can give us that Cherry Cuff and I can have for our presentation, because it's, you know, there's a fear in my head that we're going to get a call one day that someone didn't get out of a building and it was because there wasn't a working elevator. So.
Well, in addition to that, I also think of teacher safety, because they're the ones that are going to be evacuating these students.
Yeah, exactly.
Bodies are heavy.
Yeah.
And not everybody has a super strong back.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
we're looking at teachers or other staff that are literally carrying these students down with their own hands in the event of a fire.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Maybe
Oh, wait.
Another quick question.
I almost cut you off, Ms.
On
Page.
the Lambs Lane Master Plan, with the Connector Loop Road, do you think the state would give us any help on paying for that?
Why is that not VDOT?
The county has to apply for
Right.
money. He can be more eloquent than I am.
It's
about that.
it may be partly funded, but we don't know.
So I could provide some clarity on that. Local government is submitting a revenue sharing application. I can't remember the timing of it. I think it was submitted this summer or this fall. Anyway, they are including the intersection improvements along Hydraulic Road and bike pedestrian improvements along Hydraulic Road. It does not include the loop road in our study.
Right.
Okay.
Well, and I'm not, you know,
Why?
Why this
not?
is, I'm not asking you, like, you know, this is rhetorical, but like, why? Like, so I
why?
you can't pay for a road for my kids to get into a school? Like, I don't understand from a, you know,
From a common sense
from a
perspective?
common sense perspective. Again, this is rhetorical, this is not for you guys, this is just like, you know, frustration.
You may recall that one of our recommendations was using, using some of the money generated, the revenues generated by the speed cameras in school zones.
Right.
That was great.
To make
Right.
the school zones
Right.
safer.
Yeah.
That would be,
Yeah.
this is our recommendation that we continue to ask the community to support in terms of having to go to the board for sort of that use of
Yeah.
those funds. Right, we don't want people speeding near the schools.
Right, but-
So if we're making the school zone safer and there's revenue generated from that, let's plow that back.
There was
into-
about $500,000 raised in the first year on the hydraulics. I think that money is restricted, how they can use it, but I think it's restricted for safety, so it sounds like safety makes sense here, but,
Certainly intersection improvements.
Correct.
Traffic,
Yeah.
travel through a school site would all be safety related, in my opinion. I'll make that argument today. so.
well, thank you, Ms. Kumazawa. Are you going to tell us what we need to do with this? And I think you both know, Mr. Storm and Ms. Barrett, that we have, our next school board meeting, we'll be making our decisions about this. I don't know if you plan to be there or not, but you are welcome if you have the time.
So in preparation for that next meeting, if there's any specific direction that any school board member wants to provide so that we can prepare for that, we did have a discussion exercise where everyone kind of talked about their top 5 priorities. So we know that if you were on the same page with this, we would come back with this project list next month. Or if you wanted to see something different, we would be prepared to do that. So we're not having that discussion on the spot next month, but we're doing that tonight. Does that make sense?
So what would people like to do? Do we want to we want to take these home and rank them, or?
Yeah.
Do you want to take a minute and just discuss? I was going to suggest talking to the person next to you about what you think about these rankings, and then maybe reporting out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Does that work?
Yep. Sure.
From my I
I would,
just Max, did you have any comments or questions about the school capital? I forgot to even ask you. I'm so sorry.
No, you're all right. Nothing really from my side. I guess I do just have could you clear up the AstraZeneca thing? Just because me personally, I just don't know what it is.
It is a very large pharmaceutical company that has committed to build a $4.5 billion plant up by Ravenna Station on land that the county recently purchased. And they're estimating perhaps 600 jobs over the course of whatever. I mean, it's yeah. So I don't know if they're making vaccines. They may be. A spectrum of products.
Consumable drugs, so
Okay.
possibly a GLP-1 type as well as some other stuff that they're doing that they would manufacture there.
We have our own Ozempic factory. Okay.
A little bit, right? And that's 50-ish acres, 600 jobs coming in the plant alone. Their CEO said that they create 5 to 6 ancillary jobs in the communities for every job that they create. And they are talking about being open by fiscal year 30.
And they will be adding to the capacity issues of Albemarle County Public Schools.
Because those 600 employees, probably a lot of them have kids that want to go to school.
Yeah.
Thank you.
But we should also add that a $4.5 billion investment would also add to the industrial tax base, right?
That would be great.
So one of the things that the Board of Supervisors has always talked about is reducing the need on residential income, residential real estate taxes, and the tax rate that has to fund local government. And by bringing in business like this, it would make add a sizable chunk once it's fully up and running to the county's overall budget.
Thank you, Max. So, we're getting together to chat. I mean, I don't feel like I have
I know that school board owns some property, but does the county own any property that they might be willing to put into a school that would offset the cost of us buying, you know, you're taking it from, they're gonna be paying us to buy the land. Do they own any land that we could potentially use already?
Like 36 acres of it, just off the top of my head.
Is this a sticky
So I was
question?
just, chatting with- I think our next step on the high school thing is we're gonna look at them all, right? We're gonna look what the county owned, we're gonna look at what's available for purchase. We just presented that proffer was provided for a high school, right? And here's what it is.
Okay.
So we just wanted to prove it is possible. Here are all the limitations. It's enough limitations. Let's start looking elsewhere.
Okay.
But if there's not a good option, let's come back to it.
So if we were to say, like, because we obviously feel passionate about this, when would you have an idea of that? What, I mean, are we talking years from now, or are we, because I don't want to like get.
No, I
like-
think it would be something that we would start actively looking at. When is the designs, I mean, it would be between now and design, right? You're like.
FY '28.
Yeah.
What was your question?
I do think it's I think it's prudent to note that that convenience center that is on that site is currently funded for design and is actively in design. So.
Can you repeat that? Sorry, I didn't hear you.
The convenience center that's
Yeah.
on that parcel is currently funded for design and is actively being designed. So,
The property on Berkmar was proffered to the schools in the county, and they would love to have, we've been talking about the transportation center there, plus the recycling thing there.
Yeah, it's not very big. It's just on the flattest part of the
it's the best
property.
part of the site. And you'll
Right.
see our fit test proposes a soccer field at that
I
location.
really don't love the idea of a recycling, well,
So I point that out because that is a current active project that is being moved forward. So if the board desired this site, there would be benefit to knowing that at an earlier date. So there could be conversations about that.
I think for this evening, if we focus on the 21 projects and the priority order, so that you all can take these recommendations and these become your own recommendations. And then once the priorities adopted by action in November, we can start to dive deeper into the details of each of the projects.
Good.
well, I don't like counting North Point as one of the 5 because it's already been approved. And so I'm crossing it off just because it's already there. That-
there, but we wonder if there are further benefits in terms of education, looking at improving reading scores, giving some families some relief in terms of childcare issues. We think that probably is more important than number 21 TBD.
More important than which one?
Than just being at the bottom.
Oh, I see.
But that's number 21. You're only looking at your top 5.
I'm saying take 21 and put it up.
Oh, okay. into the-
Especially
An issue, even as we're building the high school. I think we're already 200 over capacity. It's just going to continue to get worse.
So for me, largely, the way that it is already ranked makes sense, except for the preschool.
I didn't hear the last part. Murray Elementary School. The child, and we did that for two reasons. I mean, A, because Allison has been making that advocacy point for some time, but also because our original list only touched northern feeder pattern schools. And we always try to sort of spread touching schools across the county. This still leaves out the southern feeder pattern.
So we got.
But we have Mountain View.
So
But we have Mountain View now, right.
We debated that as staff level too. I just think you need to remind what you did in the last 5 years. The reason you don't have an elementary issue in Western feeder pattern is the Crozet addition.
Right.
And then the Mountain View.
Crozet, right,
So,
exactly.
yeah.
I have one final question. Have we looked at grants for the elevator additions, like disability grants or something like that? Because I think that there may be, like we've had organizations that have funded like ramps for us for camp and things like that. So I'm just, obviously it's not on that scale, but just wondering if that might be an option.
I don't have a specific information
It might be
on that,
something
but
to
we can
look into,
it. Yep.
and that might alleviate some of these on there too.
So how can we get these to you, Ms. Kumazawa?
Well, I heard 3 people asking to flip number 6 and 7, Murray and Western improvements, and then I heard 3 people say they want to see the preschool center moved up into the top 5.
Okay.
Is there anything else? Right. Would you like us, other than the questions you've already asked, is there any other information that you would need to prepare you for the next meeting?
I would love to know how much 50 acres of property would cost if we had to purchase it. I mean, I actually directly asked one of the supervisors, why don't you give us 50 acres off your Ravenna parcel?
Yeah.
And she nearly laughed me out of the room. She said, that's for a higher economic purpose. I said, well, having a good school system is part of your economic planning.
Investing in our future.
Yes, exactly right. Any other comments, questions, laments, praise for our long-range planning committee?
Much praise, thank you.
Thank you, David. Thank you, Kate.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. How do we make it fly?
Thank you, Mona.
Okay. Are you done, Ms. Kumazawa? Okay, thank you. That's a lot to think about. And we need to figure out our strategy going forward. Is there any other business by board members or the superintendent?
I will note that the December 3rd meeting is not on our calendar, so I just, while we were meeting, I added it to mine, but just make sure that you all are free. on December 3rd.
And also the VSBA conference needs to be added to our calendars as well, those of us that are attending.
Ms. Thompson, is that something does the student reps go to, or they had a day before the conference starts that they do that?
I'm sorry, you're asking
Yeah, they
about the
do.
conference?
No, they do. They have a day. Do you want to explain it, Max?
I was just going to confirm, yes, that is true.
Okay.
It is November 19th.
They actually drive up very early in the morning, or they ride with Ms. Roberts the day before, so then they have a special day for student reps. All of them are going too.
That's great.
Outstanding. Well, thanks, everyone, for tonight, and if there is no further business, this meeting is adjourned.